Now I know what you're thinking. But Monkey, why are you drunk at 1:30 p.m. on a Wednesday? Well, it's because I woke up this morning knowing that I had to watch and review not one, but 2 episodes of Fox's The Passage. So can you really blame me, folks? As the nostalgia critic might say, I remember it so you don't have to. And there comes a certain cost, a certain burden with this, with what I'm doing here. I have to watch this show and report it to you so that you don't have to watch it. And it comes at a price, and the price is my sobriety, folks. So welcome to reviewing both episodes 2 and 3 of Fox's The Passage. And now you're probably wondering, Monkey, why are you doing episodes 2 and 3? Why? I thought you were doing 1 episode at a time. And the answer is yes, I am, but last week I was in the Big Apple, folks, the New York City, to do a live episode of me and Asterios Kokonos' podcast, The Boomer and the Zoomer. As we're leaving, we get into the Uber, and Asterios is so drunk that he thanks the Uber driver for working during the government shutdown.
That sounds like me.
It was a great live show if you haven't heard about it already. And if you want to watch it, we recorded the Saturday show, and it's up on my Patreon right now. For all patrons, even $1, you can watch this exclusive live show content. Some people had to pay $20 for this, folks. You can get in for $1. That's a hell of a deal, I'll tell you. So I couldn't watch and review episode 2 while I was in New York, but now I'm back for a couple days before I go back to New York. So I'm going to do episodes 2 and 3 right here, right now. And given the fact that just reviewing episode 1 took us an hour, I'm really going to have to steamroll through this shit if we're going to get through 2 episodes, especially in my drunken state. One funny passage-related thing that happened in New York is that after the live show, a lot of people came up for me to sign their books. I signed copies of my book, The Triflers. I signed copies of... But this one guy brought in his borrowed library copy of The Passage, and he had me sign the opening page. So now some poor New York City library is going to have a copy of The Passage with my name, Monkey Jones, inscribed in the front. Which I thought was very funny. So the 2 big questions on everybody's mind coming into this new review are, 1, what the fuck are they gonna do with the show? Because as we learned, the pilot episode covers about 80% of the story that they're going to be allowed to tell in season 1. So it'll be very curious to see how they adapt after they've converged completely away from the plot of the source material. And 2, does the show get any better? And folks, I'm as shocked as you to announce that the answer to the latter question seems to be yes. Yes, the show is actually getting better. The crazy thing is, it seems the less they stay true to the plot of the book, the better the show becomes. I don't know if it's because that pilot episode has lowered my standards just so in the bottom of the deepest trench that anything halfway resembling an interesting television episode is enough to make me think it's actually good. But compared to that first episode, episodes 2 and 3 were actually interesting. And let me tell you why. I think it all comes down to what I'm going to call the pilot problem. The pilot problem comes from the fact that the pilot episode, the first episode of any given show, needs to sell the show, not just to the network, but to the audience. You need to jam-pack your first episode with as much intrigue, as much action, as much crazy shit as possible to convince people that this show is worth watching and that they should come back to watch future episodes. Unless you're some sort of artistic, creative genius like Vince Gilligan, who is able to make a Better Call Saul and a Breaking Bad pilot episode that is both interesting but also good, chances are you're going to run into the pilot problem. And The Passage definitely did. If The Passage wanted to be a straight adaptation of the book, the pilot probably would have been pretty slow and boring. But you can't have that, because then nobody comes back to watch episode 2. So I think the problem they faced was they had to jam as much intrigue and plot and action as humanly possible at a detriment, to a severe detriment, because they covered 80% of the opening part of the book that I think will cover the whole first season. And you really lose all of the characterization, you lose a lot of the real motivations, you just get action, 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 plot, 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 and all the things that I was coming to the show hoping for was cut out. But thankfully, now that we're past the pilot, now that they're done throwing all the action in our face to convince us this show will be interesting, they're allowed to slow down. And episodes 2 and 3 definitely slowed down the action and plot a bit and gave us a whole lot more focus on the characters. And folks, I've said this a million times, I like The Passage for the characters. I love the characters. I love learning about them and seeing them in their natural environment and then being thrust into a chaotic, horrible environment and seeing how they adapt. And episodes 2 and 3 gave me a glimmer of hope that we might actually get some good characters in this show. I can't believe I'm saying it, folks. But we get so many flashbacks to understand where these characters are coming from and their motivations for why they're doing what they're doing in the modern day, much like the book. And I'll go into detail once we go through all the notes I took. But if you take nothing else away from this review, it's that episodes 2 and 3, they slow it down, they give me some good characterization, they give me a lot of stuff that I actually like. And I tend to only take notes on stuff that I hate. But there's a surprising number of notes about things I like. So let's just jump into it. I'm very drunk, so hopefully I took some good notes because I mean I'm gonna have to rely on past Mumkey to help future Mumkey here. So the pilot episode ends with Brad and Amy driving away in a police car from a big shootout at the police station. And this is where it truly diverges from the plot of the book, so I was insanely curious to see what the fuck they're gonna do, because nothing resembling this happens in the book at all. They get caught at the police station and taken to the Colorado Research Facility. But here they do a stupid maneuver to make the cars chasing them crash into oncoming traffic. Just generic action shit, I don't care.
Hold on. Yeah. Damn it! Back up, turn around, let's go! Let's go!
And then they see a school, and all the kids are getting on the bus to go on a field trip, and they decide, okay, this will be the way we escape. We'll ditch this stolen police car, and we'll join this field trip. And we got some stupid fucking dialogue from Amy. They're lying to the teacher running the field trip, and Brad's like, oh yeah man, I'm a single dad now, and I'm sorry I forgot to pack a lunch for this field trip. Can I just put my daughter on the bus please? And Amy, of course Amy, now she's sassy and likes to come up with all these funny quips. She supplements to this phony story saying, yeah, mom left him for a 22 or 27-year-old yoga trainer, and he has his own YouTube channel.
I'm just trying to get used to this whole single dad thing.
Oh, it's just the two of you.
Yeah, my mom ran off with her trainer. He's 27.
Oh, sweetie, they don't need to know the whole story.
He has his own YouTube channel.
Okay, great, we're all up to speed.
We're 2 minutes into the episode, and already this is striking a chord with me. I feel like it's a personal attack that they had to include some bullshit about somebody having a YouTube channel. I figured the creators of this show saw that I spent 2 full episodes shitting all over them, so they did some rewrites for episode 2 to really to really make fun of me for no longer having a YouTube channel, folks. Justin Cronin is getting his vengeance on me yet again. So Amy gets on the bus, and we learned, in the last 2 videos, Amy is now black. She was white in the book, now she's a black character. And at first I found it very racist that Amy found the need to go straight to the back of the bus. I figured perhaps she could sit in the front, but it turns out she's only going to the back of the bus so that she can open up the emergency hatch, the emergency door, to let Brad in so that they can sneak their way onto this field trip and escape the government people who are chasing them. Some little kid pulls out his phone and is taking pictures of Brad, so Brad steals the phone and says, "Hey, no phones on the bus." I thought maybe it's just like supposed to be a little humorous moment or something like that, but it becomes very important to the plot, folks, in a way that is completely fucking retarded. But we'll get to that very shortly. So where's this field trip going? We don't know. Because as the bus pulls away, the next time we see Brad and Amy, they're now in a different car in a different state. They're now in Wisconsin or something. So I guess we get to fill in the gaps ourselves as the viewer, which I'm fine with. We can envision our own wacky field trip adventure that Brad and Amy went on before stealing a car and leaving the field trip. But Brad, in the previous episode, was shot, and he's still bleeding profusely, and the blood loss is catching up with him. So as he's driving down this lonely highway in the middle of nowhere, he's like, we gotta stop, Amy. I'm losing too much blood. And he pulls over the car and passes out. Now, here's where things get really fucking stupid. And I don't want to make this series like a Cinema Sins, where I'm just pointing out stupid little plot holes, trying to act like I'm intellectually superior. But sometimes things are so stupid that I have to point them out because I can't even fathom what they were thinking. So Brad Wolgast does not have a cell phone. That's why when he called his wife Lila, he had to call her on a payphone. If Brad had a cell phone, it would be easy for the government people chasing them to be able to track his phone. Then we see a scene where the government people, Richards in particular, is interviewing the little kid who was on the bus who had his phone stolen, and he says, "Hey," he holds up a picture of Brad, "is this the man who stole your phone?" And the kid says, "Oh, yes." "Okay, kid, what was your cell phone number? We need to track that phone to get it back." "Oh, I don't know the number. It's my sister's phone." "Okay, whatever." But the idea is if they can find out this phone number, they can track the cell phone that Brad stole and then find Brad and Amy and kill Brad and take Amy in to turn her into a vampire, folks. High stakes. Meanwhile, Brad's passed out from blood loss, probably gonna die. Amy takes the cell phone and calls Brad's ex-wife Lila's cell phone. Now, for plot reasons, this had to happen. Because Lila, in the plot of not the book, but of this show, Lila finds out that they're in Wisconsin and that Brad's in trouble, which motivates her and enables her to come help. And I guess there's going to be a whole subplot about her trying to uncover the truth about these experiments. It's completely imagined. It's not from the book. But my question is, how the fuck does Amy call Brad's ex-wife on the phone using some random kid's phone? Where the fuck did she get this phone number, folks? If it was Brad's phone, sure, go to the contacts, but it's not. Brad doesn't have a phone because it would be tracked. How would you call Lila's cell phone? Fucking stupid. So stupid. But they had to have it happen so that one, Lila knows what's going on and where they are, and two, so that Richards can trace the call to know where they are. But Brad then wakes up after Lila tells Amy how to give him a noogie on the chest to wake him up from blood loss, Brad sees that Amy's using the cell phone and goes full Hulk rage and smashes it into a million pieces and throws it in the road and says, "What the fuck? What are you doing making a call on this phone that I stole for no reason, you stupid little bitch?"
We need to wake him up. Do you know what a noogie is?
Yeah?
Right? Make a fist and rub your knuckles in his chest super hard so it hurts.
What'd you do that for?
Your ex-wife told me to.
What?
Let me talk to him.
She wants to talk to you.
Tim, get in the car.
He's so mad. My reaction would have been, how did you guess the 10 digits to call my ex-wife's cell phone? How could you have known? We'll never have an answer for that, folks. We'll never have an answer for that. But they drive away. Brad's blood loss is magically fixed because Amy gave him a noogie on the chest as instructed by his doctor ex-wife. They drive away, but Richards is hot on the trail. He's able to trace the call to the now demolished cell phone in the middle of Wisconsin or whatever state they're in. So now he's hot on the trail. Then we get something that truly haunted me to my very core. It appeared on screen, and this might have been in the first episode, maybe I missed it, but it says, based on the novels by Justin Cronin. So, this would lead one to believe this series is not just based on the passage, it's saying the novels. And I would show you the other two novels, but the camera is currently sitting on them. But do you expect me to believe this show is going to cover all 3 of the novels? I guarantee you it will not cover the first. But now that I've seen this, I am so interested. I'm so intrigued. How the fuck do they think they're gonna cover all 3 of these novels when I don't think they're gonna make it to the time skip? Frightening, terrifying, but intriguing. Then we get some backstory that really, and maybe this is why they say the show is based on all the novels, because we get some backstory in episode 2 that we really don't get fleshed out until halfway through the 3rd and final novel. And that is the backstory of Jonas Lear, the head scientist behind the experiments, and Tim Fanning, Patient Zero, the guy who gets bit and infected and becomes the head vampire guy, and they're using his blood to make all the other vampires. Their backstory, it takes up a novel's worth of the 3rd book. About 300 pages are dedicated to this backstory. A lot of people hated it. A lot of people think The City of Mirrors, the 3rd book in the series, is by far the worst. I like all 3 of them a lot, but the excessive novel-length backstory of these 2 characters was a bit much. But the idea is, the general idea, I've only read it once, it's been a few years, is that these 2 guys were friends in college, interested in the same, bio, medicine, that kind of shit. And they're both in love with the same girl named Liz. But Liz ends up cruelly rejecting Tim Fanning, the man who becomes the head honcho vampire antagonist of the entire series, the mastermind, the most evil character of them all. And instead ends up with Jonas Lear, and this destroys Jonas Lear and Tim Fanning's friendship. But then after some time, and after Fanning, I think he raped and murdered somebody. Again, it's been a while since I read it. Jonas Lear discovers that his wife, Liz, the girl they were both in love with, has developed Alzheimer's. And what a terrible disease. You lose your mind, and you eventually die from it, I believe. And he realizes he could use Tim Fanning's help. And so the 2 of them are motivated by their love of Liz, and they really want to find the cure and fix Liz and make sure that this woman they love doesn't fall victim to a horrible mental illness. So that's their motivation for trying to find this fantasy magical cure out in the middle of the jungle with this vampirism shit. And really, that's something I really like about the books, is that this is a catastrophe of the entire world. The entire world is changed forever, and the vast majority of people are killed or transformed into monsters, all because these two guys wanted to save a woman they loved. Which just proves that loving women is the most dangerous thing in human existence. The Passage is the most red-pilled series, perhaps, of all time. So for the sake of Liz, the two guys team up because they're both the experts in this field, and that's why they wanted to do these experiments and get the cure and all that. And it leads to a whole bunch of horrible things. And Tim Fanning, since he's the most powerful vampire and all the other vampires have his blood flowing through their veins, he is able to exact his revenge on the world and be the most powerful, manipulating, evil being in existence. And Tim Fanning is a truly great character, Patient Zero. I really love him, and reading all 3 books is worth it, even just for his character. It really is. And it pleases me to announce that after watching the first 3 episodes, I think they're really nailing Tim Fanning. I don't know who the actor is, but I think he is fantastic in the role. I think he is my favorite actor on the show by far. His portrayal of Tim Fanning so far is the most accurate to how I would have imagined it. I really like all the dialogue they're giving him. It seems true to the character more than anybody else. But then again, like, what we have Amy to compare that to, so really anything that's halfway resembling dialogue from the book will earn a gold star here. But that's one of the reasons why I'm excited about this series, is that Tim Fanning is already such a good, menacing villain. I'm really excited about that. And they did a great job showing some of these flashbacks to show these characters' motivations for why they're doing what they're doing so far and in the future. After the flashbacks, we go back to Brad and Amy, and Brad's plan is that he has a friend in Wisconsin who is a crazy person. She lives alone on a farm, and she set up a bunch of traps around her house. She's like a survivalist. Her house is full of like 1 million AK-47s and pistols and all these fucking guns and shit. It's just that generic character you always see of like the crazy, I guess, survivalist or, you know, apocalypse planner, that kind of person. They have all these weapons and they're ready, baby. Oh man, I've been training my whole life for something crazy. Oh boy. Of course, there's no character like that whatsoever in the book. I mean, this is completely invented, but I was fine with it. It's like this big, fat, sassy black woman. Sure, fine. Brad can have that person as a friend, and they can hide at her house. But then they commit the ultimate sin, folks. I'm thinking, okay, who the fuck is this character? Whatever. It's fine. But then the character introduces herself, and her name is Lacey, folks! Oh! If you've read the book, you know how painful this is! Oh, fuck you, show! Fuck you! Just give her a different name, don't call her Lacey. In the book, Amy's mom drops her off at an orphanage, and Amy becomes friends with a black nun named Lacey, and I figured, you know, they must be just cutting this character out of the show completely, because Amy never goes to an orphanage. Her mom dies and she gets adopted. Like, they're changing the whole backstory. Whatever, fine, no Lacey. She's only really important in the first 200 pages, whatever. But she's just a fucking nun who becomes friends with Amy before she meets Brad Woolgast. They talk for a day, she takes her to the zoo, and then Brad kidnaps her from the zoo. Why the fuck did you have to make this crazy survivalist lady Lacey? And then she even has a throwaway line, I used to be a nun! Fuck you! Why the fuck would that be important? This is fucking retarded! Yeah. If you're just gonna invent a new character, don't give me this shit that it's secretly a character from the book when they're 1,000,000,000% different. Lacey wasn't a former Marine. This lady was a nun, and then a Marine, and then a Marine Sergeant General who trained Brad, and now she lives on a farm in the middle of Wisconsin alone with traps set up all around her house with an alarm going off in case anybody comes. And she has a stockpile of military-grade weapons. You're gonna tell me that's fucking Lacey? That is insanity! Just call her Shaniqua or some shit. It doesn't need to be Lacey. Why? Why? That made me so mad. It made me so upset. It's pointless. Pointless. But whatever. One good thing I liked from the farm scenes is that she has pet goats, and Lacey and Amy go out to feed the goats. And if you know me, insert pictures here, I love the goats. I go hang out and feed goats every week. So the Lacey reveal, automatically forgotten about. The goats distracted me. The show has been redeemed. Put goats in your show and I will give it a raving review. And now we get more of Anthony Carter, another one of my favorite characters from the book. He has been ruined in the show. In the book, he's a mentally retarded homeless man who was accused of murdering a woman who he was mowing her yard, but really she was committing suicide and just jumped into the pool, and he's like, he falls in with her, and he's like, trying to come up for air and save her, but she wanted to drown and die. And since he's like this scrawny little black guy, I think in Texas, of course he gets blamed for the murder, and that's how he got on death row, which gets him involved with Brad, and they say, oh, death row inmate, we want to get you for our experiment, blah, 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 blah. That's the great tragedy of Anthony Carter's character, is that he literally didn't do nothing, and he's mentally retarded and doesn't really understand what's going on. So it's interesting to read his perspective, and it ties into when he becomes one of the 12 main vampires who serve Lord Zero, the head vampire, Tim Fanning. He's the only one who really has still a sense of humanity within him, because he was never evil from the beginning. The other ones, all those other death row inmates, they actually did it. They're actually, brutal, savage murderers. Not Anthony Carter. He's a good guy. He didn't do anything wrong, and that's why he, when he's in vampire mode, he's not as evil as the other ones. And I don't remember specifically what he does. I just know that it's important to the plot, all this characterization of Anthony Carter. In this show, we don't get any of that. In this show, he's intelligent, he's reading things easily, he is asking intelligent questions to people, and as far as we know, he committed murder. The show gives us no sign whatsoever that he's actually an innocent guy. So when we have all these scenes about him going through the experiment, and he's like, taking the drug, and he's like, oh man, I could run forever now. Oh, the cartilage in my knee is repaired from when I played football in high school. It's not as easy to relate to this character, because as far as the audience knows, he is just a death row inmate, murderer man, who is now being given essentially superpowers. There's really nothing redeeming about it in any sense. It's just, okay, what, I'm supposed to like this character? He's a fucking savage, brutal murderer as far as we know. There's no backstory here to show that he's an innocent guy who didn't do anything wrong. But still, we get some more nightmare scenes, folks. And I am living for these nightmare scenes, because Tim Fanning, Patient Zero, is manipulating and brainwashing people in their dreams. And we get a lot of the dream stuff. Episode 2 and 3 are focused primarily on Tim Fanning and the dream stuff. And we get more dream sequences of Fanning and Babcock, the now female vampire who also entered a dream in the previous episode. These two seem to be trying their damnedest to build a team. They're going into all the experiment streams and they're saying, oh, join us, drink the blood, it's delicious, I'll give you 100 years of blood if you join me. And he's going into the minds of the guards at the experiment site. And he's like, oh yes, you are mine, you are a subject of Zero. You will serve me and I will be the king of the new world. And the scenes are particularly creepy, just really well done. I really like it. I really, really like it. It's great. He goes into Babcock and Zero go into Anthony Carter's dream and they try to give him blood and they try to make him join their side, but he's not going for it. So I guess that's the closest we get to Anthony Carter really being a good guy, is that he rejects Zero, says, no, I don't want any part of this. You're a fucking weirdo creep guy. I just want to be me. So maybe that's how they'll justify the 12. You know, they all serve Zero, but not Anthony. Maybe that's the little hint they're giving us. But it would be far better for the character if we know that he's actually innocent. And we actually get that instead with the Babcock character, the female vampire who is serving as Zero's #1 henchman right now. I think it's in episode 3, and we'll get to that. But they give her a full-fledged backstory that is never in the books. So it's interesting. They give this newly gendered character like a 10-minute backstory that never existed. So I don't know if she's getting the Anthony Carter treatment or not, but we will see. Oh, we also get more of one of my other favorite characters, Gray. Gray is the sweep, because they pretend that they're janitors to everybody else, but they're really the guards for the vampires. He's the sweep who is watching Zero. He's in charge of watching Zero. He has a whole backstory about how he's like a fucking sex offender or some shit. Really interesting, great character. And in this show, we finally get more dialogue from him. And he is identical to Marty McFly's son from Back to the Future 2.
Hey, baby. You miss me? I thought they pulled you off the floor.
Not enough bodies. Lucky me.
Why do you hit her cage? Stop antagonizing her.
Hey, McFly! I thought I told you to stay in here!
Rip, guys, how's it going?
McFly!
Yeah?
McFly!
What?
Your shoes unbelt!
Hey, no, stop. Come on, let's go. Let's just go. We're done here, man. Come on.
Yeah, Grip, I was thinking about it. I'm not sure because I just think, it might be a little bit dangerous, so.
It's every time he talked, it made me laugh because he sounds identical to Michael J. Fox doing that stupid fucking voice. But it actually endeared me to the character, and I actually really like Gray in this show too. Gray and Fanning are both very well done, folks. There's a scene where Gray is getting bullied by one of the other guards, and it eventually leads to Babcock chopping into the guard's neck, sucking his blood, killing him all in front of Gray while he freaks out. That scene was fine. I just really enjoyed Gray. So, long story short, Richards, the government guy who was tracking down Brad and Amy, they find out that they're hiding in this house. Oh, also, Brad's ex-wife shows up there, but whatever, I don't care. All the feds show up, they have another generic shootout. Lacey gets shot in the stomach, and I assume she's dead, but she's not. And for Amy's sake, Brad decides to surrender. He goes out and says, hey, it's just me. I put Amy on a boat to Canada. She's not here. But Richards is like, you fucking liar! I'm gonna shoot you in the head right now if you don't tell me where she is! And I'm thinking, Richards, either she's in the building, she's in the house, or she's not. So, just either, if you don't believe him, just look in the house. If you don't see her, then he's telling the truth. He's saying she's not here, and you're saying he's lying, which would imply you assume she's in the house. Just go fucking look! Why are we doing this? Why are we playing this game, Richards? But Amy decides to save Brad because Richards is gonna shoot him in the head for some reason, because he won't tell where Amy is, even though it's obvious she's either in the house or not. And Amy walks out to say, "Oh, I'm here. Don't shoot him." And at this point, I don't know why they don't shoot Brad. They had two goals, and they said this multiple times in the episode. When you see Brad, shoot to kill. We don't want him to tell the story of what's going on here. We need him dead, and we need that girl to experiment on her. So as soon as you have both Brad and the girl, I mean, that's it. Kill Brad and take the girl. There is no longer an advantage to having Brad, but for some reason they just arrest the both of them. And they decide not to go into the house, so Lacey and Brad's ex-wife, Lila, are still there, and they both have been informed by Brad about all the experiments and all the inmates and all that shit. So if you didn't want the story to get out, you should have gone in and killed those people. And it's implied that Richards knows that there are people still in the house because he gives Brad a knowing look and says, nah, we got what we came for. Let's go. No need to search the house. So he's doing Brad a friendly favor because they used to be friends, but he's fucking himself over because now these two characters in the next episode are going around trying to get reporters to tell the story of what's going on. But that's how episode 2 ends. The two of them get arrested. And right now, as I'm watching it, I'm feeling okay. The entire episode was invented. None of the plot elements resembled the story at all. But I like the character work, particularly, you drunk fuck, with Tim Fanning and Gray. So yeah, that's episode 2. Things are looking up. Do they keep looking up in episode 3? Let's find out. So episode 3 begins with all of the scientists and all the lab people discussing what to do about Babcock. Because in episode 2, the female vampire Babcock killed one of the janitor guard guys. So they're thinking, should we euthanize her? I don't know, this is the first time somehow in the entire 3-year history of this experiment that one of the dangerous, violent monster vampires has killed somebody. Which I find hard to believe. Really? You've been doing this for 3 years and you have 13 some vampires down there? And this is the first time somebody has been killed? I'm gonna have to call bullshit on that one, but evidently it's true. And Richards is in support. Because now they showed up, Brad, Richards and Amy, they're all now at the facility. Brad and Amy are separated and Richards is back with the main group of scientists. And Richards is like, yeah, fuck it, kill Babcock, I hate that bitch. Fuck that, yeah, kill her, euthanize that bitch. But then, over the course of the episode, Babcock is forcing her story into Richards' head. And I really like this idea for filling in the backstory of a character. It's not like a Naruto flashback where we're just getting bogged down in all this bullshit. But it's part of the past and the future and the present. Because she, in order to save her own life, her own vampire life, Babcock is forcing Richards to experience her backstory so that he feels empathy for her. So we get this whole backstory about Babcock. She's just a 20-year-old party teen, has her friends. They dress up like sluts and go to parties and fuck random guys. One time a guy is getting too violent with her friend at a club, so she cuts his arm and they run out. She dreams of becoming a makeup technician for films and she's saving up money. But she lives with her mom and her stepdad. And these are not the parents of the year, folks. They make that very clear. The mom is very judgmental, saying, "Oh, you'll never be a beauty technician. You'll never do makeup for the picture shows in the Hollywood. No, sir, you're saving up that $3,000 for nothing. You're just gonna blow it. You stupid skank. I hate you, my daughter." And the stepdad is a real creep. He's like, "Oh, hey, you got any panties you want me to do in the laundry? You and your friends wear any sexy panties to your Halloween party?" And she's like, "You creepy fuck! You get away from me! Don't you dare say the word panties to me again!" And she's shutting the door.
You and your friends wearing some slutty Halloween costumes with your panties hanging out?
Danny, it is really important you never say the word panties in front of me again.
You used to be nicer to me.
And it's in a future past flashback. We learn, she has her cubby hole full of money because she wants to go to college to do makeup, and she finds out the money's gone. What the fuck? Turns out the creepy stepdad took the money, probably to buy beer or something. We don't know what he took it for. And she is pissed, and she's yelling at her parents, "What the fuck? You stole my money, this is bullshit, I want my money!" And the mom's like, "Oh, you were just gonna blow it anyway. Stepdad's a good man, let him have the money." And she says, "Mom, I don't know if you know this, but stepdad, he raped me. From age 8 to 16, he would come in my room and he would brutally rape me all the time. So he should give me back my $3,000. And the mom has like a guilty look. She's like,
He started coming into my room when I was 8. And he kept doing it until I was 16. Oh my God. You knew. You knew and you didn't do anything. You told me you would always protect me. And I believed you. But you didn't. You lied to me.
in Babcock says, "You knew about it. You knew stepdad was raping me, and you didn't do anything to stop it. You just let it happen." And she's so consumed with rage, she takes a butcher knife and fucking stabs her mom to death, goes and kills the stepdad. And that's how she got on death row, for murdering her mom and stepdad, even though he brutally raped her as a child for 8 years and stole her money. But I guess it's not really self-defense, so yeah, she gets put on death row. And that's why I think she's sort of getting the Babcock treatment. Was that an Ethan Klein moment? Sort of getting the Babcock treatment. You get you get flashbacks to the crime she committed, so that you empathize and think, oh well, that's understandable. She's not malicious or evil. I would probably have killed those people in that circumstance myself. But what makes that interesting is that in the case of Anthony Carter, when we get the backstory, that fuels our understanding of why he's not one of the evil vampires. But Babcock, we get this backstory to empathize with her as not being an evil person. But she's the right-hand man of the most evil vampire. So it's like a weird inverse. She has an understandable past and she doesn't seem evil, but now she's evil as fucking shit. So I'm not sure what they're doing with that. Maybe it'll lead to some sort of redemption arc. I don't know. We're only 3 episodes in out of 10. Very interested to see how this character seeming inconsistency, will be made logical. So as they're going to kill Babcock for the crime of being a violent, hungry, blood-lusting vampire, they're like killing her with the sunlights, or put her in a thing, and they're burning her with lights. But then Richards gets this final flashback, and he sees why she was put on death row, and he says, "No, stop!" And he hits the button. Richards, the most evil human in the book. He's like a sociopath. Everybody knows it. He's brutal. He's brutal. But in this show, we get a new dimension to him. He feels empathy for this murderous vampire monster and stops her from being killed. And that's pretty much the main plot of episode 3. But Richards is also concerned about all these dreams he's having, all these visions of Babcock's past, because a bunch of other scientists and a bunch of the sweeps are saying, "Man, I've been having nightmares every night about Tim Fanning. I keep having dreams about Tim Fanning. He keeps telling me I should not trust Dr. Jonas. What is going on?" And Richards is like, "Oh, this is bullshit. That can't be true." But now that it's happening to him with Babcock, now he's starting to get worried, and he's wondering, is this cabin fever? What is going on? Why are we're all having these crazy fucking dreams? What is happening here? And he's getting really concerned. And another character who is, of course, having these dreams is Gray, the sweep who is watching Zero. And Gray finds out that a young girl has been brought to the facility, and he's interpreting from his dreams that Zero intends something bad to happen to this girl, and he doesn't want that to happen. So he breaks into the room where, at this point, Amy and Brad are now staying in the same room together because Amy requested it or whatever. They already started the experiments on Amy, injected her with all the shit, whatever, fuck, who cares? But Gray is like creepily standing over her bed staring at her sleep because he's also like half hypnotized by Zero. And Brad's like, "What the fuck are you doing in here?" And he says, he's coming for her. Zero, he's coming for the girl. You have to save her. Get her out of here." And Brad's like, what the fuck is happening here? So Brad decides he needs to break out of the room that they're locked in and make his way down the elevator, down to the deep basement to see what experiments are happening. All he knows is that he had to pick up all these inmates. He's never heard of a patient Zero. He only knew of the 12 that he picked up. So he has to go investigate and find out the truth of what is happening in this facility. What experiments are happening? Meanwhile, since Lila and Lacey are both free and they know all about the inmates and all that shit, they are doing their own investigation. They're talking to reporters. They're trying to get the story out in the news as much as possible. They gotta say, Brad is not dead. He did not kill those people. He did not kidnap that girl. Brad Wolgass is innocent and government is doing this crazy thing. But they're having trouble getting a reporter to take the story. She's providing them with all this evidence. Like, here are the names of 12 inmates who all apparently disappeared from death row. Yeah, this is a thing that's happening. Here's proof. And the reporters are like, I don't know. I mean, I kind of got to write, my BuzzFeed article, top 12 reasons why cats are cute. Yeah, maybe I'll give you a call back. I don't know. Government conspiracy, the clickbait, I don't know which one I want to do. And I'm not sure where this subplot is going of these two women informing the media about the experiments. Because again, there's nothing halfway resembling that in the books. Once we get to the facility in the books, Brad and Amy get taken there, we stay there until the outbreak where all the vampires escape, and then we get the time skip because the world is forever changed. So are they going to go in a completely opposite direction? Is this going to be a 1-season, 10-episode event where the news gets out and then what? The reporters go knocking on the laboratory door and stop the experiment and the vampires never escape? What is the point of this subplot? It can't add anything, because once the vampires escape, it doesn't matter if the public knows about the experiments and all this government shit. It doesn't fucking matter. The world is over. The world's dead. It's irrelevant. All the people who could report on it are dead. All the people who could read the story are dead. It's not a secret. There's vampires everywhere now. We're all dead. So I don't know how it's going to be relevant or important at all that these two characters still exist, even though they didn't exist really at this point anymore in the book. Other than Lacey, kind of, but whatever. Yeah, curious. Maybe they needed filler, so they threw in this filler plot that will ultimately lead to nothing. But again, I'm insanely curious to see what the fuck they're thinking. Then we get what I think is the best line of dialogue in the show so far. Richards is worried about these dreams and if the experiments are influencing people's dreams and invading their minds. And he talks to Brad about it, and he says, "Brad, do you know if Babcock got sexually assaulted as a child? Was that in her file? Do you know anything about this?" And Brad's like, "Oh, well, I mean, it was inadmissible in court, but I don't know, maybe, why?" And Richards is like, "Oh, no reason. But then he says what I think is one of the main themes of the entire book trilogy. Richards says, and I wrote this down, nobody gets over anything. They say time helps, but it's just another lie.
You know what I'm starting to think? Nobody gets over anything. They say time helps, but it doesn't, does it? It's just another lie.
And that really stuck with me. I thought, you might think that's, generic, stupid dialogue, but as a fan of these books, that really struck a chord in a positive way. Because that's really the whole motivation for Tim Fanning. Tim Fanning, patient zero. The man who was in love with Liz and wanted to save this girl who rejected him and went off with his best friend instead. The whole thing is him wanting to get revenge on the world, and he becomes the supreme head honcho monster vampire man who rules all. All of the vampires, all the 12 and all the vampires that the 12 convert into vampires, it's like a neural network, a pyramid scheme. And at the very top is Zero, and he can communicate with all of them, and he is their god. He is the god of the new world, folks. And it's all out of revenge, because when he was a human, life treated him like shit. He never got what he wanted. He was walked all over. So this line, nobody gets over anything. They say time helps, but it's just another lie. He's on a 200-year revenge spree where he is the king, all out of revenge. And all this time passes and he stays the same. He still is so vengeful and angry and just wants to rule and control and be in power. And that's what makes him such a great character to me. I really liked Tim Fanning. And that line of dialogue from Richards I thought was on fleek, as the kids would say. On fleek. So Brad sneaks his way down into the basement through a series of wacky shenanigans of memorizing the door code and sticking a needle in Gray's neck so that he can scan his eye to get into the facility. And he walks down and he sees all the fucked up vampires with blue faces and blood all over them, and he's like, what the fuck's going on down here? And who are you? He's pointing at Zero. Who the fuck are you? I didn't pick you up from a prison. Who the fuck is this guy? But he's just saying this to himself, essentially. And then Jonas, Tim Fanning's, old buddy, the head scientist running all these experiments, who is, he's a good guy at heart. He's not evil like Richards or any of the other ones. He comes down and he talks to Brad and he says, hey, we got 3 minutes until the security comes back on. This experiment is getting out of hand. Look what's going on here, man. I'm not so sure about this stuff. It's getting crazy down here. He really confides in Brad. And Brad now really understands the gravity of this situation and what is being done here. And he goes back up to the room with him and Amy, and he has a nightmare. Now Zero is in Brad's dream. And Zero says to Brad something along the lines of, you stay out of my way, Brad Wolgast, or I'll fucking kill you. And Brad wakes up.
Word to the wise. Stay out of my way, Agent Wolgast.
Smash cut to credits, folks. Zero is now in Brad's head. Brad is the lone human, him and Amy. Even though Amy's not really much of a human anymore because she's been infected with the virus, but she's feeling fine still at this point. It's Brad versus the world, folks. He's locked up in a high security former hotel with all these military people, all these powerful vampire monsters. There's so many different parties involved. It's not just good versus evil. You've got Brad, the side of good. You've got the vampires who want to break out, the side of very evil. You've got the military who's working for the government, who's working for the scientists. And they're doing all these experiments because they just want to cure things. So they're like chaotic neutral. They're not good or evil. They just have some brutal people in their ranks, like Richards, even though he's showing empathy for Babcock for some reason. You've got all these different parties at play. And really, Brad is one man who has to go up against all of the others. And of course, the tragedy, I assume, will be his failure. And the government is going to fail as well. The scientists are all going to fail because this show has to lead to Zero and the 12 breaking out and ending the world, folks. The question will be, does that happen in season 1? And if it doesn't, will it happen at all? Will the show be canceled? I don't know. But the moral of the story today is that it's getting better. It's actually getting better. It's not staying true to the story. It's not staying true to the source material, but I'm now fine with that. Now that I've accepted that Amy is a 1,000,000% different character, I actually don't mind her anymore. She petted the goats. That was nice. She has her quips. Whatever. It's fine. Gray is great. Tim Fanning is amazing. And I'm actually looking forward to watching the next 7 episodes. So, with all that being said, I guess I'll see you next week for episode 4. And now that we're at the end of the review, let's shill some shit, folks. Now that I'm not making any ad revenue on YouTube, I rely 100% on my income coming from viewers like you. I'm truly the PBS of the internet. So, if you would like to support Mumkey, there are many ways you can do it. The best way is on my Patreon. You throw in $2 or more, you get your name in the credits of all videos like this one, all major videos like this one. You can also buy Mumkey merch. I've got a couple shirts on my Teespring store. Look at them. You can click on the link down below to go buy them if you want. I've also got a Twitch. You can subscribe on Twitch. I get the money from that. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe on Twitch for free, and I still get the money. And just go watch my Twitch streams and maybe donate if you want to see your message pop up. Those are the 3 best ways to support me right now. So, if you do it, thank you so much. And thank you for watching my videos still to this day, folks. I hope you've been enjoying this series as much as I have. And I will see you next time.